My name is Laura Moreno, and I'm an onboarding specialist with Broadloom Management Software. Today, we're going to be talking about the quote and order entry process for your customers. We'll be focusing on searching for quotes, adding new customers, and building your customer quotes in the system. So to begin, we're going to start at the master menu and go into sales processing. And from there, we're going to go into quotation proposal maintenance. Select a printer. Okay, very quickly, I'm going to kind of show you around this screen here. This is our main quote screen, and there's a lot of sorting options as well as searching options in here. So if you notice, first off, all of these gray headers, when I scroll over them, you can see that they're live buttons. So if I click on any of these, it's going to sort the information in that column. So if I click on this customer ID button, it sorts everything in alphabetical order. I also can do the same with any of these fields: addresses, quote dates, job statuses. This is the sales rep's initials, so that can be really helpful. Then over here, if I know my quote number, I can type it in and click on view quote here, and that will go ahead and open up that quote for me. I can search by branch. I can look for a specific customer. I have these buttons here. These are all of my open quotes, my closed quotes, or a combination of both. If I want to refresh this screen, anytime I select any of these buttons, I simply click on the build button here. And also just to let you know that your closed quotes are going to be any quotes that were converted to an order or quotes that you just needed to close out for whatever reason. All right, over here, I've got quite a few filter options. So I can do my search using any of these filters here. So some popular ones that a lot of people like to use is perhaps the salesperson. If I type in the salesperson's initials, I can look for all of their quotes. I can add multiple filters at one time. So perhaps I want to look for all of my quotes that I have samples out, or any customers that have samples out. So I can scroll down to job status and type in sample. I could also search by follow-up date if I wanted, but once I've put in my filters, I simply click on filter, and there's my quote. All right. You could also, look for all of the quotes that you've put together by vendor or by style name, or even the color in the quote. So there are just a lot of options here. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and rebuild my screen. Okay. Now, if you go ahead and you build the screen in a certain way and you want a printout of that screen, you can simply click on Print Quote Report, and it will show you all of these quotes and this information based on the way you filtered and sorted out that screen. All right. When you are ready to create a new quote, you're going to click on New Quote. And the first thing that's going to happen is my system is going to take me into the customer selection screen so that I can either select a customer that I've already got in the system or create a new one. So there's some different ways to search. By the way, when I click into customer selection, my search default automatically falls on customer ID. If I wanted to change that so that the default is the customer name, there is a control for that in Company Control 4. Anyway, so let's go ahead and search by customer name. Perhaps I'm looking for a customer with the name of Abby Bryan. I can see that she pops right up to the top here because the system is searching by the beginning characters of the name. So that was a very easy search. But let's say I forgot what her first name is and all I know is her last name. As you can see, it's looking for the first characters in the name, so she's not pulling up. So if I do want to find her that way, if I click on the wildcard button, that will search anywhere within the customer name for the customer. So you can see all of these have Brian in their name, and here's Abby right here. So all I would have to do is click on her and select. Another thing to note is that anytime I click on any of these headers here, the search option changes up here. So if I type on address, I can search by the address. All right. So quite a few ways to search. Now, let's say I don't find my customer and I need to add my customer to the system. I can either click into customer ID, start typing in the new ID and then click on add, or I can click on this add new button right here. Now, just as a heads up, the way that we usually recommend setting up the customer IDs is if it's a company name, we typically recommend using the first 8 characters of that company name or whatever makes the most sense to you. And if it's a retail or a residential customer, we recommend using the first 4 characters of the last name combined with the last 4 numbers of the phone number. And that just really keeps from you creating duplicate customers in the system. It's a good way to prevent duplicates. So I'm going to click on this add new button here. And if you notice here, this customer name field, this is meant for commercial customers. Whatever I type in here, the system is going to select the first 8 characters and generate the customer ID. If it's a residential or retail customer, if I type in the first and last name along with the phone number, it will create the ID based on that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. Okay. And if you notice these green asterisks, those are required fields. So I'm going to type in Sally's phone number. Okay. And now you notice that the system has generated my customer ID. Now I'm going to finish typing this in. And then once I'm ready, click on continue. The system will say this customer is not found. Would you like to add? And I'm going to say yes. All right. So at this point, I'm going to just take you through the basics of the customer maintenance screen. You're going to continue entering in your customer's information. And once again, all of these green asterisks are required information. So I'm going to finish typing in the name. This long name is probably going to always be the same as the name field. This just gives you more characters and more room to type out a longer name if need be. Okay. Now I'm going to type in my address. If you have a secondary contact, you can type that information here. My email address, room for more phone numbers and even a fax number if you need that. Default job type, this is required. So this is going to be when you create a quote or an order in the system, it will automatically select the job type that you've chosen here. You can change it if you need to in the quote or the order, but this will be the default. So I'm going to scroll down to residential for Sally, and I can see here that the default tax type on a residential job is sales tax. Sales territory, this is how did you hear about us? So we will say that Sally was just driving by. And customer type, you don't have to use this, but if you ever create special pricing in the system, you can set up special pricing based on the customer type. All right. If you have customers that have lines of credit with you, that can be set up here. And I'm not going to go into detail on that today, but that will happen, or that will be covered in another training session. Sales tax code, this is where you're going to select the tax code for that customer. Oh, one other thing is display in sales note. If I click on edit, I can type a sales note in here, and just be aware that anything that you type in here for this customer will pop up on the screen anytime you go to enter a quote or an order in the system. So it's basically a way to alert your salespeople any information about this customer that they might need to know. Salesperson, you want to select this. So I'm going to select house account for this one. And it's also a good idea to click on this email sales rep so that the sales rep will get copied on any emails that are sent out of the system or any documentations that are emailed out of the system. And now that I've entered all of this, I'm going to click on Add to finalize setting up this customer in the system. All right, so now that we've selected our customer, we're back in the quote screen. Right here, you can see the quote date, the job type. So if you do need to select a different job type, you can click this drop down arrow. Sales rep, if you need to update the sales rep, you can do so here. And by the way, you have to have permission to be able to do that. Otherwise, this option will be grayed out. And then you could even select a second sales rep if that's the case. If you need to change your customer, you can do so here. If you need to put in your customer's purchase order number, you can do so here. Here is the tax code that we've selected. Sold to tab. This is the billing address for the customer that was entered into customer maintenance. Now, maybe the customer's moved or they've changed their phone number. You can make updates by clicking here. And all I would need to do is go in and make the appropriate updates and then click on save. Ship to. This is going to be for your installation address. So once again, if the installation address is different from the sold to billing address, I click here, this change location option, and I can come in here and type in the address for the job location. I can change the phone number. I can put in a new email address, a different contact name if I need to do so, and then I click on save. And you'll notice here that this is now in red, this font. That means that this information is different than the billing information. Then I've got my quote detail. I can select a job status here. In this case, it would be a quote status. And so perhaps I sent this customer home with some samples, and I want to set that as my quote status. And I also want to follow up with this customer. I can click this follow up button and select the date that I'd like to follow up with them. And this is something that once you set it up here, you can search in the main quote screen to find all of your customers' quotes that you need to follow up on. Once you've set this up, now we're going to start looking at how to find and add line items to this quote. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on Find and Add Line Items. Now, really quickly, if I am looking for something that's already in stock, I can do so by using this button here, Filter by Inventory. So maybe I'm looking for carpet, and I want to see only the options that I have available to sell to this customer right now or ship to this customer right now. I can click on Filter by Inventory, put in a minimum on hand, or perhaps a maximum on hand, and then click on Find Matching Styles. Once I do my search that way, I can click on the item and view the available inventory for that item, and I can see what I have available to sell. All right. Now going back, in this case, I'm not going to use something that's in inventory. So I am going to search for some carpet. Now, you're going to want to probably always use the product type. This is going to be your primary search option. Product code search option isn't used as frequently. There's a lot of options here, and if you accidentally select the wrong product code, you're going to make it a lot harder to find what you're actually looking for. Styles that begin with. So this would be the beginning characters in that style name. So if I'm looking for a style called Castle Drive, whoops, excuse me, I can simply start typing in CAST and then click on Find Matching Styles. In this case, it looks like I only have one item, but if I had other styles that started with CAST, it would find all of them for my carpets. I can also use these filtered options over here. So once again, I have style, but in this case, the style name must contain. So it doesn't have to be the beginning characters. So if I type in drive in this instance, add to search, find matching styles, it will find any styles in the system that include the word drive. All right, going back, I could even get more specific and add a color to this. So I can say color and then put in the color name that I'm looking for. I could even add in vendor if I wanted, or any of these other options. I'm going to say find matching styles. And here is my style and my color information. I can also see that this is a 12-foot wide carpet. The vendor is Mohawk, and I can see the style number and the color number information. So I'm going to select this to add to my quote. And I simply clicked on add item. All right, so now you have the option to give this a bundle name. So bundles are a way you can categorize the materials or labor lines in your quote the way you want them to present on the quote document or your order document. So I'm going to call this simply, carpet. Maybe I could even say master bedroom if I wanted to. Okay. Then I'm going to put in my work quantity, my sale quantity, and my unit price if I'm changing that. So I'm going to put in a quantity here of 20 linear feet. And I can see here that the catalog price on this, the sell price that I've set up for this carpet in the system is $34.49. But if I want to update this, I certainly can. I can see my catalog cost right here is $15.84 a square yard. But again, if maybe I've gotten a special price on this, or maybe the catalog cost has changed, I can update that here. So I'm going to go ahead and update this to $33. I can see here that if I sell this carpet to my customer at $33 a square yard, that I'm going to be getting almost 51 points of margin. But perhaps I realize maybe that's just a little bit too high. I need to drop my margin a little bit in order to win this job. So I'm going to update my margin percentage to 40%. And when I do that, it adjusts my sell price to the customer accordingly. I could also, if I was getting a special cost from the vendor, a special price, I could edit my unit cost here and it would edit my margin. So anytime you change any of these fields, it will update the other fields accordingly. All right, I also have the option to use this pricing table. If I click here, I can see different levels of pricing set up for different types of customers. And this is if you've set up A to J pricing in your system, this will be an option. So if I see here, I can see the different types of customer levels I've set up for pricing. Over here, I can see the different prices based on margin levels. So for example, if I click in here for the contractor pricing, once I click in this field, I can see that a price for this carpet to a contractor would be $28.49 a square yard, which would be getting me approximately 43 points of margin. If I choose to use that price, I simply click on use price. But for this one, I'm not going to do that. All right. So once I've entered in my quantities, my pricing, my bundle names, I can click on close. And at this point, if you've set up associated products in your system, you're going to be presented with those associated products. So I can see the type of material this is. I can see the style name, the color, and I can see items that have been pre-selected. Now, if I don't want these items, these options, I simply unselect the ones that I don't want and then click on the ones that I do want. So I do want some pad. This is the pad that I want. This is the quantity that's been preset based on the cell quantity of the material. So if this is correct, I'm going to leave it there. I don't want install Berber, but I do want install stretch-in. So I'm going to keep that one selected. I have a few stairs. So I'm going to click on this one here. And I'm selling them in this case by the step. So I'm going to change the quantity here to 13 because my customer has 13 steps that I'm charging them for installation. Okay. Once I've made my selections, I say continue. And now my quote includes not only the material, the carpet that I selected, but all of the associated material options and labor lines that I need to go with the carpet here. So very quick way of creating your quote. All right, now let's go ahead and add another product to the quote. Let's add some tile. So I'm going to click on my product type tile. And I'm going to look for, I'm looking for Asiago. And I'm going to select the color white here. Okay, so at this point, I'm not going to put this material into a bundle. I'm going to order 250 square feet, and my system will automatically update the quantity to full box quantity. And then I can see right now that I'm getting 51.58 points of margin, and maybe I need to be at about 35 points of margin in this case. Okay, so here's my cost, here's my sell price, my extended sell price. So at this point, I'm good. I'm going to click on close. And I can go ahead and once again, select any additional associated items that I need to. So I'm going to select a dumpster fee. I'm going to keep this as is. I'm going to select installation tile floors standard. I'm going to go ahead and keep this one in place, and then I'm going to keep this one as well. So now all of those items have been added into my quote. Now, let's say that I want to add another type of Asiago tile to this quote. I can go ahead and find that tile. Maybe it's a bullnose, maybe it's a mosaic. Okay, and I want to go ahead and add this in, but rather than dropping it down to the very bottom of the quote, the last line, I want to include it right underneath the main tile line. So rather than clicking in add item, I'm going to click in insert item. But first I'm going to select the right color here and say insert item. Okay, and now the system is going to ask me to insert it before a line. So if I want it on line 6, I'm going to insert it before line 6. And then once I do that, once again, I'm going to go in and select my quantities and prices and then go ahead and hit close. Don't need any of these guys, so I'm going to hit cancel. Okay, and now here is my Asiago bullnose right below the main tile 12 by 24. Another feature that you guys might not know about is, let's say that I realized I had selected the wrong color or the customer changed their mind. Rather than having to delete this out by clicking on the delete button, I can highlight, right click, and select reset results for item replacement. Then my system will pull up this material line and I can select the color that I do want. Maybe I'm choosing Noche. And I can come back up here, right click again, and I can scroll down to change style and color. Then I'm going to get this question if I want to go ahead and reset my price or not. I'm going to say no here, but that's your choice on how you want to handle that. So now that I made that change, my color has changed. So you can do that with any of these. All right. Another option you have is, let's say you have a labor line that's not in your catalog. It's very specific to this job. I can do what's called freehanding the labor line. I can also do the same thing for special charge lines. I cannot do it for material lines. So if I come into select my product type, I'm going to choose labor, and then I'm going to click on tile labor, find matching styles. When I do that, you'll notice here at the bottom, I've got these options: style, color, and add item to quote. If I click here, I can freehand in a specific labor line that would not ordinarily be in my catalog. So maybe I'm going to type in something like custom tile pattern, and then maybe I'm going to say hexagon. And once I click on add item, it will drop that into my quote. Once again, I can put in my quantity and my pricing. So I'm going to set up a price here of $500, my sell price, and then I'm going to pay my installer $300 and click on close. And you can see right here, it went ahead and added that in to my quote. All right, thank you for joining us today. If you'd like additional information or have any inquiries about BMS software or any other Broadloom products, please go to www.broadloom.com. Thanks again and have a great day.